You have been lied to about what food is supposed to cost. Not by accident, not by inflation, by design. The moment you believe that eating real food should feel like a luxury, you stepped into a trap that has been tightening for 40 years. This is not about capitalism. This is about a specific economic perversion that makes survival itself a premium product. And by the end of this video, you will see the exact stages of how they did it, where you are inside the system right now, and what you can do before it gets worse. Let me be clear. The price gap between processed food and real food is not a market accident. It is an engineered outcome. In 1980, the cost difference between a bag of apples and a bag of chips was negligible. Today, calorie for calorie, ultra-processed food is 5 times cheaper than whole vegetables in the average American grocery store. That inversion did not happen because farming got harder. It happened because subsidies, patents, and supply chains were rewritten to make synthetic food the baseline and real food the exception. You are now living in the first society in human history, where the poorest people are simultaneously the most overfed and the most malnourished. That is not irony. That is a business model. Here is what this costs you every single day. You walk into a grocery store with a fixed budget. You see organic produce priced like boutique items. You see whole grains marked up like artisan goods. Meanwhile, an entire aisle of brightly colored boxes promises convenience, flavor, and volume for a fraction of the price. You're not choosing based on preference. You are choosing based on economic coercion, and the system depends on you believing this is normal. It depends on you thinking that feeding your children real food is something only the upper middle class can afford. Because the moment you accept that framing, you stop asking why the inversion exists in the first place. This mechanism has ancestors, and they all share the same blueprint. They all made the artificial cheap and the natural expensive. They all turned necessity into scarcity. Let me show you 3. First, Victorian England. By the mid-1800s, bread had become the cheapest calorie source for the urban poor. But it was not real bread. Bakers cut flour with chalk, alum, and bone dust to stretch profit margins. The whiter the bread, the more you paid. The laboring class ate bread that was 50% filler and did not even know it. The government knew. The bakers knew. But regulation only came after decades of slow poisoning because the system ran on making real wheat expensive and fake food cheap. It was not a scandal, it was policy. Second, American company towns in the early 1900s. Coal miners were paid in scrip, a private currency only valid at the company store. The store sold food at marked up prices because the miners had no alternative. Fresh vegetables were rare. Canned goods were standard. The companies controlled the supply chain and the payment method. The result was systematic nutritional deprivation that kept workers alive but never healthy enough to leave. The cost of real food was not set by the market. It was set by the monopoly. Third, post-war industrial farming. In the 1970s, the US government made a decision. It prioritized yield over nutrition. It subsidized corn and soy to the point where these crops became cheaper to produce than vegetables, fruits, or livestock raised on pasture. Those subsidies did not go to small farmers. They went to agribusiness conglomerates. The result was a flood of cheap corn syrup, soybean oil, and grain-fed meat. Real food, food that required crop rotation, diverse ecosystems, and slower growth, became economically irrational to produce at scale. The entire food system tilted. And once it tilted, it locked. Now let me show you the stages of the trap you are living in today. This is not speculation. This is the mechanics. Stage 1 is subsidy capture. In the 1970s, the federal government began paying farmers to overproduce specific crops. Corn, soy, wheat. These subsidies were justified as food security measures, but they were not distributed evenly. They went overwhelmingly to large operations that could plant thousands of acres of monoculture. Small farms growing vegetables received almost nothing. The result was a supply glut of commodity crops that had to be converted into something sellable. Enter food science. Corn became corn syrup, corn oil, cornstarch, maltodextrin. Soy became soybean oil, soy lecithin, textured vegetable protein. These ingredients are now in 70% of supermarket products. They're cheap because the government pays to keep them cheap. You are not buying food. You are buying subsidized raw materials shaped into food-like products. Stage 2 is the flavor-engineered dependency. Once the ingredients were cheap, the next step was making them irresistible. Food scientists discovered the bliss point, the precise ratio of sugar, salt, and fat that triggers maximum craving with minimum satiety. This was not cooking, this was pharmacology. Ultra-processed foods are designed to be hyperpalatable, digested quickly, and unsatisfying at a deep biological level, so you eat more. You feel hungry an hour after eating because the product was engineered to prevent fullness. Your taste buds are being recalibrated. After years of eating food optimized for bliss point activation, plain vegetables taste like punishment. That is not your fault. That is sensory conditioning. And it makes returning to real food feel like withdrawal. Stage 3 is where the pricing structure inverts completely. As processed food became the norm, whole food became niche. Organic certification, non-GMO labeling, pasture-raised standards, these were not innovations. They were labels created to identify what food used to be by default. But now they carry premium pricing. You are paying extra for food that is not contaminated with pesticides. You are paying extra for milk from cows that ate grass instead of grain. You are paying extra for the absence of synthetic additives. This is the definitional inversion. The normal became expensive. The abnormal became standard. Grocery stores now have entire sections devoted to what they call health food, as if the rest of the store is something else. It is. Stage 4 is nutritional degradation at scale. Here is what no one tells you. Even non-organic whole foods are less nutritious than they were 50 years ago. Soil depletion from monoculture farming has stripped minerals from the ground. A tomato grown in 2025 has 40% less calcium, 30% less iron, and 15% less vitamin C than a tomato grown in 1970. The food looks the same, it weighs the same, but it is molecularly hollow. You would have to eat 4 modern apples to get the same nutritional value as 1 apple from 1950. This is not a metaphor, this is USDA data. The food system is producing more volume and less substance, and you are paying more for less. Stage 5 is the healthcare rebound. This is where the trap closes. Decades of eating nutritionally degraded, chemically optimized food produce predictable health outcomes. Obesity, diabetes, heart disease, autoimmune disorders. These conditions are not genetic accidents, they are environmental responses. And once you develop them, you enter a second market. Pharmaceuticals, medical devices, chronic disease management, the same investment firms that own shares in Kraft Heinz and PepsiCo own shares in Eli Lilly and Pfizer. This is not conspiracy. This is portfolio diversification. You are sold the food that makes you sick. Then you are sold the medication to manage the sickness. The system profits twice. And the cost of managing diet-related disease in the US is now over $500 billion annually. That number is larger than the entire agricultural output of the country. You are spending more to treat the consequences of cheap food than the food itself. Stage 6 is the knowledge barrier. Even if you understand all of this, even if you want to eat real food, the system has made it difficult to know what that means. Grocery stores are designed to confuse. Front of package labels say natural, wholesome, made with real fruit. The ingredient list on the back tells a different story. Maltodextrin, carrageenan, monoglycerides, autolyzed yeast extract. These are not food, these are industrial compounds. But the average shopper does not have a biochemistry degree. You are expected to navigate a linguistic minefield every time you buy a box of crackers. And the companies know this. They use health halo marketing to make processed food look virtuous. Gluten-free cookies, vegan chips, keto-friendly bars. These phrases mean nothing about nutritional value. They mean everything about pricing strategy. You are paying a premium for a label that disguises the same subsidized base ingredients. Let me show you where you are right now. If you are spending less than 15% of your income on food, you are eating mostly subsidized raw materials. If your grocery cart is dominated by items with barcodes and brand logos, you are inside the processed pipeline. If the produce section feels expensive and the center aisles feel like a deal, the pricing inversion has you. If you experience cravings an hour after eating, you are chemically dependent on bliss point formulations. If you have one or more chronic conditions that require daily medication, you are in the rebound phase. And if you feel guilty about not being able to afford healthy food, you have internalized the lie that survival should cost extra. This is not a conspiracy. This is a business model. Let me show you the math. A box of branded cereal costs $4. It contains 30 cents worth of subsidized corn, 5 cents of sugar, and 65 cents of packaging and marketing. The remaining $3 is brand margin. You are not paying for nutrition. You are paying for advertising, shelf placement, and the research that went into making the product addictive. Meanwhile, a pound of organic carrots costs $3. No subsidies, no shelf fees, no chemical optimization. The carrot farmer is competing on a playing field designed to make vegetables lose. The system is not neutral. It is weighted. Here is what the food industry will never tell you. Processed food has a profit margin between 20 and 40%. Fresh produce has a margin between 5 and 10%. A grocery store makes more money per square foot selling chips than selling apples. The store layout reflects this. The center aisles are prime real estate. The produce section is the perimeter. You are being architecturally guided toward higher margin products. Every end cap display, every eye level shelf, every checkout lane impulse bin is optimized for processed food sales. The store is not designed to nourish you. It is designed to extract maximum revenue per visit, and the system scales globally. Ultra-processed food is now being exported to developing nations as a poverty solution. In Mexico, Coca-Cola is cheaper than clean water in rural areas. In India, instant noodles are replacing traditional meals in low-income households. In sub-Saharan Africa, imported packaged snacks are displacing indigenous crops. This is not economic development. This is nutritional colonization. The same playbook that hollowed out American health is being run in every emerging market, and the result is the same: rising obesity, rising diabetes, rising dependency on pharmaceutical intervention. The business model is portable. You cannot shop your way out of this, but you can stop playing the game on their terms. Here is what that means. First, stop buying anything with more than 5 ingredients. If the label reads like a chemistry exam, it is not food, it is a product. Second, calculate cost per nutrient, not cost per calorie. A bag of lentils is cheaper per gram of protein than any processed protein bar. A dozen eggs costs less than a box of toaster pastries and delivers 20 times the nutritional density. You have been trained to see price tags, not value. Third, buy directly from the source whenever possible. Farmers markets, community-supported agriculture, food co-ops, these bypass the retail margin and the branding tax. You are paying the person who grew the food, not the corporation that marketed it. This is not about going back to some imaginary past. This is about seeing the present clearly. The food system is not feeding you. It is conditioning you. It is making you dependent on convenience, flavor intensity, and low prices that hide high costs. The longer you stay inside the mechanism, the harder it becomes to leave. Your taste buds recalibrate. Your budget adjusts. Your health deteriorates. And every stage makes the next stage feel inevitable. But it is not inevitable. The trap is designed to feel invisible. The moment you see the structure, you can navigate it differently. You do not need to eat perfectly. You need to stop eating what is designed to make you sick. You do not need to spend a fortune. You need to stop subsidizing the companies that are subsidized to harm you. This is not individual responsibility. This is systemic awareness. And awareness is the only tool they cannot monetize. If this opened your eyes to the cage you are living in, subscribe. Because in the next video, we dismantle the rest of the illusion.